As light as the year has been for AAA releases, there have been some quality single-player titles from Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree and Silent Hill 2 Remake to Astrobot and Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. However, there are certain things we'd like to see more of, regardless of practicality. Check out 15 things single-player AAA games should bring back. More original IPs. Original IPs are a bit muddled because while creating brand new settings, stories, and characters is encouraged, there's nothing wrong with leveraging existing properties for fresh adventures in the gaming space. Less Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League and more of Chronicles of Riddick Escape from Butcher Bay or from Dark Athena would be ideal. Heck, even Helldivers 2 takes its fair share of inspiration from Starship Troopers, but creates something wholly unique. More creative ideas and concepts. Regardless of whether the IP is from another media or created for video games first, there's no denying that more original gameplay ideas are necessary. Look at the declining popularity of a certain publisher's open world titles and how many fresh ideas they bring to the foray, though execution also matters. Compare that to something like Pal World, which goes beyond simply being a Pokemon clone and offers a unique survival crafting experience. Telling fresh stories. Remakes like Silent Hill 2, Resident Evil 2, Dead Space, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and so on are noteworthy for retelling the same stories in new ways. However, there's a serious need for fresh plots and characters that go beyond what we've seen before. We've seen more titles embrace this over the years, whether it's small efforts like Lorelei and the Laser's Eyes or big-budget ventures like Baldur's Gate 3 and Alan Wake 2, but there's still more to be done. Shorter playtimes. Between games with extensive amounts of content and near-limitless replay value, it's nice to see more titles opting for shorter playtimes. We saw this last year with Dead Space and Alan Wake 2, and this year with Astrobot and Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2's campaign. Having massive worlds to explore and get lost in is nice, but so is a tightly paced campaign with a memorable story and awesome set pieces. Fresh progression system. Blame that one publisher who shall not be named for running this into the ground, but the RPG Light system of progression is pretty much everywhere these days. Even Dragon Age the Veilguard opted for this approach, for better or worse, but mostly the latter. While having a Destiny-like UI and gear scores is a nice safe approach, it's time for something new. Emphasizing art direction and presentation. For all of the praise the PS5 Pro has received, this generation has faced its fair share of flack for not offering a sizable jump in visual fidelity. This is where art direction and presentation makes a huge difference. As gorgeous as Alan Wake 2, Black Myth Wukong, Ragnarok, or even Ghost of Tsushima look, their cinematography and aesthetics ultimately allow them to stand out from the pack. Not that there's anything wrong with photorealistic visuals, but pairing that with a unique aesthetic is the way to go. Creative sound design. The same goes for sound design. We're a long way from titles like System Shock defining for sound an entire generation, and while not every AAA title offers that level of aural fidelity, some are still trying their darndest. Look no further than Senua's Saga Hellblade 2, which captures Senua's psychosis through the Furies in frightening detail, or the Dead Space remake and how capably it instills fear into you at almost every step. Big budget immersive sims. Blame it on titles like Deus Ex Mankind Divided or Prey not performing up to expectations for the lack of big budget immersive sims nowadays. Indie titles have taken up the mantle in various ways. Streets of Rogue 2 is a notable upcoming release, but the world is overdue for a new Deus Ex, or a sequel to Dishonored. It may not make the most sense financially for some publishers, but hey, we still want it. Complete stories. What do Final Fantasy VII Remake and Call of Duty have in common? Splitting their main story into multiple parts, and it's understandable, especially with how epic the developer wanted the remake to be. It's less so the case in Call of Duty, especially after Black Ops 6. Does there need to be another cliffhanger teasing the next entry, especially when we just had that last year? More complete and self-contained stories in video games, please. I really don't need to know how the villain's sidekick's protege's nephew is planning to take revenge in the sequel. More polished launches. One could argue that AAA titles have always had bugs and glitches, but there was a point where they symbolized more polish than your average titles. Nowadays, we have the likes of Stalker 2: Heart of Chernobyl and Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, two big-budget single-player games with more than their fair share of bugs. Their sheer complexity dwarfs the games of old, so it's somewhat understandable, but we still yearn for those days of more polished products at launch. Less hand-holding. Sony has been particularly egregious with this, especially in titles like Ragnarok, to the point where even providing options to tone down the hand-holding wasn't enough. However, this can also be applied on a broader spectrum, with more titles trusting players to figure things out for themselves rather than relying on help for the most basic of tasks. They don't need to go full Dark Souls either, just be less overbearing. Local co-op. It's probably water under the bridge by now, but when Halo Infinite canceled local co-op, especially after delaying its post-launch, there was justified backlash. Nowadays, fewer titles opt for the same, either due to technical constraints or because the returns aren't justified. Even if a game like Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 offers a campaign that supports online co-op, we'd still enjoy local play as an option. It may be enjoyable as a solo experience, but sharing it with a friend via couch co-op would be even better. Cheat codes. Say what you will about Red Dead Redemption's re-release, but at least Rockstar Games retained the cheat codes. Fewer titles these days even bother implementing the same, and it's even more baffling in single-player titles where the results won't affect anyone else. Hopefully, cheat codes will come back and offer unique ways to experience the games that we love, and not as microtransactions. More free cosmetics. Speaking of microtransactions, they're used to justify paying for additional cosmetics, which should be unlockable through playing the game. There are some exceptions like Star Wars Jedi Survivor and Dragon Age: The Veilguard, not counting outfits from their deluxe editions, but having more options across a wider range of titles would be ideal. Secrets. Remember the various secrets of past Grand Theft Auto titles and how the community banded together to uncover them? Yeah, we need more of that, something beyond the base game for players to discover and revel in. And we're not just talking about secret areas like in Black Myth Wukong, which admittedly offers extensive amounts of quality content, but deeper mysteries that require real effort to uncover. Hey, did you know that we at GamingBolt upload new videos every day? Stick around, drop a like, subscribe, and hit that bell. And let us know what kind of content you'd like to see in the future with a comment below.